Let me try to get through my notes here. Bringing it back to faith. Faith, you said, if you can be quick, tell us the Antichrist story really quick.
Oh my gosh, yeah, okay.
Whoa.
So, yeah, right.
Is there a red heifer involved?
Huh?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay, so back when I was just starting to kind of get into Christianity and whatnot, I wasn't totally convinced yet, but I was moving closer and closer, starting to do some research on the Bible and everything. And I was seeing this guy, it was my first and only ever sort of like friends with benefits sort of thing. I very much regret it. And one night,
Did he go to 15-minute parties with you too?
No. One night, I had gotten a call from someone who was like a sort of spiritual religious mentor, and he was actually the pastor that married my husband and I in the end. But I remember earlier that day he had called and was like, hey, just by the way, I kind of I was deep in prayer this morning, and just stay away from men right now. Like I was like, yeah, whatever, fine, and then later on that day, this guy, the Antichrist, came over. And I was kind of talking to him about how I was feeling really guilty about what we were doing. I was like, I don't feel like this is spiritually right. I don't feel like this is right for me anymore. I just don't feel like I'm this type of girl. It's not. And he was like, well, why do you think that? And I'm like, oh, well, because I'm really starting to fall in love with Christianity, and I'm falling in love with God again and everything. And his demeanor totally switched, and he just like totally different person. I'm like getting chills right now, like totally different person. And he was like, well, I hate God. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm atheist. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, no, I hate the Bible. And I was like, well, don't you go to a Catholic college? And he's like, yeah, I do, but that doesn't mean anything. He's like, and then all of a sudden he starts to say, and it was stupid of me to think that, but it was late at night. I was tired, whatever. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, and I'm the Antichrist actually, and I can't wait to burn in hell. I can't wait to die and burn in hell. And just, what? Right? And he started to go on and on about this, and I just totally freaked out. He went to take a shower. I called
Are you saying you slept with the Antichrist?
Oh my God, it freaks me out. But I did like a lot of deep prayer afterward and everything, and I think he's just very anti-Christian and everything. And so I called my mentor, and I was like, oh my God, you were right. What do I do? And he was like, just pray about it. I'll pray about it. We'll figure this out. And the next morning, and I kind of slept with one eye open that night because it was like 3 a.m. I didn't want to do anything because I've never heard some guy say crazy stuff like that. And the next morning I woke up with, I don't know if I can say this, but bruises and whatnot, like all over my body, like really, really dark bruises. And I don't know how they got there. And I never saw him again, thankfully. But that was my final thing of like, okay, God, this was my sign. I guess
confused on the
doing
bruises thing. How did the bruises come about?
I literally don't know how they got there. The next morning I took a shower.
Were you maybe just tossing and turning?
Maybe, but I've never had that ever happen before. But yeah, and maybe it doesn't have anything to do with it at all. I just thought it was very, very, very peculiar and strange. And I saw it the next morning when I was taking a shower because I literally couldn't stand the stench. I actually came down to Santa Barbara for like 3 days after the fact because I didn't want to be in my house, anything, or my apartment. I didn't want to be in my apartment, anything. I was just so freaked out about it. But I'm thankful that the experience happened because it was a huge learning experience, and it was enough to scare me into celibacy until I met my husband months later.
Wait, did you hook up with the guy? Did you hook up with him?
Yes. It was consistent. We knew each other for months beforehand.
Oh, okay.
And talked for a little while, and yeah.
Wait, so you were having sex with this
the
guy?
Antichrist.
The Antichrist.
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't
Holy
know.
shit.
But it was the very last time that I saw him after consistent. And my husband knows this story. I've talked with him to make sure he's comfortable with me talking about this.
Okay.
But yeah. So I mean, if anyone who's watching, is curious, like, sometimes like this stuff is legit. Like this was a very real experience, and it was crazy. So, but yeah.
But you said this man was essentially just an atheist college man who I met when I was debating celibacy, was first starting out to know God. So you met him, you were interested in pursuing Christ, you were interested in, you were trying to be celibate, but he veered you off the path a bit on your celibacy?
It wasn't that I was even, because I wasn't fully committed to Christ yet, so I wasn't intentionally trying to be celibate. I just was because I at the time I was self-isolating. It was my post-party phase. I was self-isolating. I didn't want to have anything to do with anyone, and so I just happened to meet this guy through.
Wait, it's just a couple questions.
Sure.
You met him. How did you meet him?
I met him through work.
Through work.
Yeah.
And you said you did have sex with him. How quickly after meeting him did you have sex with him?
I think like 4 months. 4 months.
4 months?
Because we would just see each other at work, and he would walk me home after work.
Atheist.
Yeah, but we never really talked. We never really got to that point because at the time I wasn't like really.
Oh, were you guys like not dating for that period of time?
No, and I fully regret it, and I fully advise against it. So yeah, but.
But so 4 months, and then you guys were hooking up for how long?
It was only like three times. That was the third time.
Only 3 times.
That was the third time that happened.
You waited 4 months and. Okay.
Well, it was because he would only be at work occasionally. He kind of was like I was a server at a restaurant, and so sometimes when it would get really, really packed, he would host and everything. So yeah.
Good times. But then I forgot if you already answered this.
Sure.
You're married. Did you wait until marriage for carnal knowledge with your husband?
No, and I
think you answered that.
Yeah, I advise against it, but there was a point. It was when we first started dating, and we're both much stronger in our faith now. But when we first started dating, we weren't. And it got to a point where I was getting a lot of like conviction and everything, and I would pray about it, and I'd open up my Bible, and all of a sudden like all I could see was like celibacy like everywhere, and I was like, okay, this is definitely like so we had to talk about it, and I was like, I'm just not comfortable with this, and it's been really good and it was really good because we were able to, whenever we had disagreements, we could think through things more logically and everything, and it was just better and all around healthier, and I definitely think that's